because you said sorry. Hold on, just a second. Can you right now tell us about this transmission of your Quran? How did it come into existence? You can.
Okay, so what you're doing now?
Right now.
Was that what
That's exactly what we're doing. We're finding out
before,
who wrote the Quran.
Okay.
Because you said who wrote the Bible, right? You're saying the Bible wasn't written by...
Is he with you or is he with me? The guy in the blue shirt.
He was talking, yeah.
Is he with you or with me?
I don't know.
Do you know him?
No.
You don't know him?
I mean, I've seen him here before, yeah.
So we can ask him what we were just speaking about.
No. Okay, you
Before
just
he
made
goes
a
away.
claim.
Before he goes
Look.
away. Come. No, don't be on camera. I just want to ask you one thing and let it be clear. Don't run. No, don't be on camera. What was we just talking about? The Bible. Okay. So I mentioned. I'm just laying this. I haven't even discussed anything yet. We're just showing people what we were just talking about off camera. So I mentioned the I am statements in John, and I mentioned the Gospel of John, and you said with regards to John that we have a chain of transmission of John, and that we can actually the early church fathers, they demonstrated that John wrote John. Because this is my question to you: how did John wrote John? Then you said one of the early church fathers said that it was John that wrote it. And I asked you who, you didn't know the name, but it was Irenaeus of I think it was 180. Irenaeus.
I don't remember exactly, because
I think it was Irenaeus.
Christianity, it's not, the narration and everything is very important to Islam.
Yeah, but it's not important to
It's
Christianity.
not important to
Exactly.
Christianity because we know where it comes from, and it's not like, oh, did he say that or did that one say that? We don't have that issue.
You see.
Okay,
No,
we're not going to talk over each other.
You just
right?
spoke up. You just cut me. I haven't made my claim yet.
So let's do this. You make your claim first.
Yeah.
I'll give you the time to
Yeah.
speak. We'll both have 2 or 3 minutes to speak. Is
Yeah,
that okay?
yeah.
Can somebody clock us for the time? One of these guys can...
I'm reasonable. We can. You don't have to
fine.
stick to the.
It seems like you are. So I like speaking to you.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
So
I just wanted to be timed because I hate it if I spoke over you. It would
if you speak over me, it's fine.
If
As long as we
I speak
can.
over you
Yeah.
and you speak over me,
That's
it
fine.
wouldn't be a good thing.
That's fine.
JC, can we get a camera? Somebody to keep time. But do you want 2 or 3 minutes?
Whatever.
Okay. We're going to time it for 2 minutes each. All right, thank you.
So
He's going to keep time, he said.
Yeah. So
Your Muslim brother will keep time.
Inshallah.
All right. So once he starts the time, can you start the time for him, please, so we can
How much
get
time?
this going?
How much time?
2 minutes each.
Tell me when to start.
Go ahead.
So for me, I don't do time stuff, but I'm doing it for your sake. No problem.
We can do 3 minutes if you
It's
need more.
not about that at all. It's just
So
I'm
that
not
I
used
don't
to
speak
I'm not
over
used
you.
to these time discussions, but it's no problem. So what I mentioned to you earlier was about the Gospel of John. In John, we have the great I am statements. Before Abraham was I am the Father are one.
Wait. You are going from one place to another. What is the topic that
cutting
you're
me
talking
now.
about? What is the topic? Can we...
You're cutting me now.
Okay, let's stop
Yeah.
the clock, please. Okay, let's say here. Okay, here. What is your agenda of this conversation?
So where's the guy? This guy here.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know his name?
No, I don't.
You don't-
I just met him today.
You just met him today.
Yeah.
And the other guy, you met him today.
Yeah, I've seen him here before, but I
You don't know his name.
him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, he was.
I just know they're Christian. That's all.
That's fine. So he was discussing with one of my other brothers who's not here now.
Okay.
And then he was asking about the categorization between authentic narrations, Sahih Hadith, and Da'if Hadith. Okay. So I didn't know the full details of what they were saying, but I listened to a little bit, and I said, okay, I'm just going to clarify one thing about authentic narrations. So he was satisfied with the answer, and that was it. That was the end of it. I then asked him, can I ask you now about your mode of transmission in Christianity? And I'm sure I remember you being there at that time. So I then asked, for example, John, before Abraham was I am. We find a statement in John, before Abraham was I am. How do we know that John wrote John? And I was speaking to the gentleman in the blue polo shirt, and I was speaking to him, both of these two. And then I said, do we know that John wrote John? And then you jumped in and said, yes, we know that John wrote John. And I said, how do we know that John wrote John? You said he's the beloved disciple. I asked, how do you know that he's the beloved disciple, firstly? And secondly, with the end of John 21, who's speaking there? Where it says, and just for the record, if you don't mind.
Shall I start the clock?
You should have started a long time ago.
No,
Is
now
it?
you can start it
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
Before-
so
okay, so
this
if
is
you're gonna
recap.
talk
This is recap what I'm doing.
Okay, we're just recapping
Yeah.
what he's saying, and then he's going to get this 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a specific topic because I'm going to ask you questions about Quran. Is that okay?
So right now the topic
We
is
discussed the Quran initially. They discussed it before I even
but
came.
I wasn't there.
Okay, but I'm asking my
Look,
question.
You're going to ask me question, but I'm going to ask you question.
Yeah,
if you answer my question, I'll answer your question. Is
So,
that okay?
so look, you know the Quran and the Bible, they're two different books, of course, yeah? So if we're discussing one thing in detail, okay,
No, it's not one thing in detail. It works like this.
you made the claim that John wrote John.
I made the claim that we have I gave you the chain of
You,
narration.
you don't
said-
answer John wrote John because the Quran X, Y, and Z. That's not how you, that's not, if you're talking about this, a specific subject, you made the claim to me. I was discussing with these guys freely. You made the claim to me, yes, we know John wrote John. I was like, okay, how do you know John wrote John? Now you're saying,
And I gave you the answer, right?
what did you say?
Didn't I say that we have the early church fathers? They
Yeah, and
had this question
and I'm-
asked before, and they did answer it at that time with the.
And I'm questioning that. That's the point. Now you don't answer John wrote John by
Right,
saying,
right, right.
well, in the
but
Quran.
that's the second question.
Hang
so
on, hang on,
first,
hang on,
first
hang
we
on.
get to
You don't-
one
you don't-
question. No.
you don't-
It's
you
a
don't-
back and forth.
Look.
Because the thing is this. The thing is this.
I came in here, they asked me a question, I clarified my answer, I spoke at length, I answered all their objections to both of these two guys, okay?
So are you
hang-
afraid
hang
of
on.
answering questions about Islam?
Are you afraid? You're afraid.
I'm not. I answer. I'm
you're-
saying.
I'm questioning your answer.
No, the thing is,
Why
you're
would you-
having a double standard. The thing is,
No,
if I
it's
ask you
not,
the
it's
same
not.
question, who wrote the Quran?
It's not.
You don't know who wrote the Quran.
It's not that at all. It's not that
Do
at
you know
all.
who wrote the Quran?
Do you agree that this is a different subject?
No.
let's
no,
start
it's
with did John write John?
Do you agree?
I'm on-
Do you
okay,
agree?
listen, you can.
Hang on. Do you
Hold on,
agree?
hold on.
Do you agree it's a different subject?
No. I asked you, I said to you,
How?
I said to you,
What has
I
the
want to have a
Quran-
conversation. I don't want to have a monologue. Because you're saying, I want to ask you a question, but you cannot ask me a question.
What has the Quran?
That's not
okay.
right.
What has
You
the
have a double
Quran?
standard,
What
sir.
has? No, it's not.
Sir, you cannot ask me a question, and if I ask you a question, say, no, you can't ask me a question.
That's a whole different subject.
No. It's
Okay.
the same subject.
Anyway,
because if you
what
say
I'm
this
saying-
book, I don't have reliability.
What
who
I'm
wrote
saying-
this book?
what
And
I'm
I say,
saying-
what's the reliability of your book?
Yeah. You can question
you're
that.
not- and you should answer that.
You can question that, and we can discuss that. That's not a problem. But in the discussion on John writing John, okay, when, for example, these academic non-Muslim scholars, when they discuss it, do they bring in the Quran? Do they say, well,
I'm not
hang
talking
on.
about
No.
all those people.
Because what I don't want to do is enter discussion and you start machine gunning, throwing
No,
everything.
listen, no.
The question was simple. No.
I don't-
Listen to me.
that's
Listen to me.
The way you don't
Listen
want
to
me to machine gun you, I
Listen-
don't want you to machine gun
My
me
friend,
with
my
this
friend,
question
my friend.
and say,
I spoke
answer
to
this
3 of
question.
you.
I said I answered
I
you.
spoke to
Now
3 of
I have
you.
a question for you.
I spoke to 3 of you.
I'm just going to ask keep asking my question.
Listen, I spoke to 3 of you at the same
No,
time.
you didn't. You were talking to these guys. They didn't have the.
Was
He
you-
called me. He said, "Can you come over here?"
Who?
This guy, the guy in the blue one, that one.
Okay,
the
so
young
I was
one.
speaking to him. I was speaking to the older one. Hang on, the older one over there,
Okay.
and you as well
No,
at the same time.
I haven't even spoken to you
No.
right now.
Yes,
I just answered some questions that you were asking.
Listen. You butted into the conversation. Then, if you want to
no.
put it that
I
way,
was
don't-
invited into the conversation with that,
listen.
the Christian
If you
guy-
don't want to answer, just say
I answered you.
Then let me
I
question
answered
that.
No.
Am I
You're
just
coming with another question.
This is the thing.
No. The
This
thing
is
is
the
this.
thing.
You're saying
I said to you.
You asked me a question. I said, look.
Take you lot's camera. Where's you lot's
was
camera?
Written by John.
Take
He said,
all these off. This is
who wrote
ridiculous.
this?
Who's it? I don't know which one is
You
which.
don't want to answer it because
No,
you
no,
don't
no.
want to answer who wrote the Quran. Do you know who wrote the Quran?
The Quran, as in the manuscripts?
Yes.
In terms of the manuscripts or in terms of the scribes of the Prophet?
The Quran you have right
Mu'adh
now.
bin Jabal. Mu'adh bin Jabal was one of the scribes of the Prophet. Muhammad. So we know.
Do you have his Quran?
We have chain of transmission.
Sir.
Listen. Again.
Hold on.
Take these. This is
Oh,
ridiculous.
so that's what. Listen to me. You said you haven't read it. No. I said, listen, who was the one who compiled the Quran? Who was the one? First one. No. Before
First one.
Yeah.
So there was different compilations. Okay, Aisha had her own compilation. Ali bin Abi Talib had his own compilation. And many of the Sahaba.
Abu Bakr had a compilation. Okay, what's that the first one?
Allah Alim is the first one.
Sorry? You don't know. Okay, you were saying this book, I have a question about the authenticity. Your book, you don't even know who was the first compilation. Oh,
This is yours.
You don't know. Do you know that? Can you answer it? Thank you.
So Irenaeus, for example,
Oh, no. We're talking about exactly. Do you understand that? We're talking about this is Islam. This is how he does it.
Still talking, huh?
This is why you are debating those guys. So this is what what you do with this, Islam does that. We're going to ask Christians questions, but if you ask me the same question, I'm going to run away. And I have a right to do that because I'm going to say, well, you're not answering my question. Sir, your Quran, you cannot, you say this book is not authenticated. Your Quran has no original manuscript.
Okay.
You don't have it.
All right. Ask me. Okay, at first, you seemed like a reasonable guy, but clearly you was lying. Clearly you was being deceitful. You said, I said to you, I'm trying to be reasonable. We can do 2 minutes if you want to do 2 minutes. Every time I spoke now, you've jumped and stopped because you're scared of this Irenaeus question, which we'll have to get back to. But because now you've done exactly what I said you shouldn't do in a discussion like this. If we're discussing one thing, you bring up a whole different subject and says, well, what about this? Go point for point. I'm not just going to accept. If I don't accept Bukhari said X, and therefore Bukhari, I have to blindly follow. Bukhari has to show his working. So when you said Irenaeus says X, Y, or Z, I don't just accept Irenaeus. I have the right to question it. Let alone you telling me Irenaeus said it, therefore you can't question. Of course I have the right to ask you. Now, because you've done this whole diversion tactic, yes you have, because you've done this whole diversion tactic of asking about Quranic manuscripts, again, imposing your belief upon us. Our religion is not based, our transmission of the Quran is not based upon manuscripts. That's the first mistake you've made. Now, your religion is based upon manuscripts from unknown authors that you have to dust up.
Timing this.
No. If you're not being patient, you can go. It's fine. So all you've done is just divert now. I want to talk about one subject, we want to talk about the Quran. So in terms of the first one, Abu Bakr had a Quran that was then passed down to Aisha, no doubt. Ali had a compilation. Many of the Sahaba had compilations. If you're asking of the first one, it's very hard to tell because they're all in the Prophet's lifetime. Okay. Now, in terms of manuscript, the Prophet's lifetime, companions wrote down their.
No, I'm talking about compilation, not write down.
In terms, every Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud, they all had their own compilation of the Quran. It was under Uthman that it was unified under one. Okay. Now, this has nothing to do with Irenaeus saying that John wrote John. The only reason you've done that is because you didn't know what you were talking about.
Okay, who wrote Surah Al-Baqarah?
Again,
who wrote Surah
Al-Baqarah? Are we gonna do like Bible and Quran?
Okay, the thing is this.
You don't say this. Don't say if you talk about Bible, I'm gonna talk about Quran. And then when I mention about my criticism for about Irenaeus, and then I show you is our belief of the Bible.
That's why I said
right now, you're not gonna talk about nothing about the Bible. You're only gonna divert and talk about the Quran, which was not what we were speaking about. So I guarantee all of these cameras are watching. You're not gonna say nothing about Irenaeus and my rebuttal to it. Go on.
Okay, let me say something. You've had your say, right? So I can say now.
I'm waiting for you to talk about Irenaeus.
Okay, let me talk. I don't have to talk about what you want me to talk about. I know you want me to say something that
was the
you
whole
want
discussion.
me to.
That was the whole discussion.
I'm going to say what
That
I
was the
want
whole
to
discussion.
say about
That was the
in
whole
response to what you said.
Then do you know what?
I'm
Do you
going
know what
to respond
happens?
to your-
Just one thing. You know what happens if you do that? If you open up that kind of worms of moving from topic to topic, then that allows
You haven't
me.
even heard what I was going to say.
to me.
You haven't
every
heard.
time I spoke.
I
You
was
done
quiet.
that. No.
I was
Just
quiet.
now you allowed me to speak. Okay. Prior to that, you was cutting me. You elevated the tone of this discussion, not me. Yeah.
I'm bringing it down,
So
right?
try and bring it down, please. Yeah, okay. The cameras are watching now. So.
They're watching for you.
So before that, we was talking about Irenaeus, no problem. As soon as the cameras came, you started to jump.
No, I
You
didn't.
became
No, I
irate,
didn't.
and then you wanted to jump. So this
You
is
became the-
no.
Okay, that's fine. Now why are we going back and forth
So
about
what I want to
something
say,
that doesn't make
if you do this thing where every time I question something, you say, well, what about this? What about that? What about that? Then when you're asking me now, imagine if I was to do the same thing.
If you stop, then I can
Hang
respond
on, let
to
me
it.
finish.
Let me know when you're finished.
I'll let you know, definitely, and I won't take too long. So what you just did now, I asked you a specific question. We had a discussion earlier with the other guys, and then I answered a specific question, and then you said, well, what about this? Now imagine now, when you ask me what about this, I ask you about something else now. How many topics are we going to go through without even understanding one? Now I guarantee you that when you speak, you're not going to address Irenaeus. You're just going to jump to the Quran. So go. You can speak now.
You finished?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I have no problem talking about the Bible. And I did that before, and I tried to explain to you, Christianity did not start when the Bible was written. Christianity started way before the Bible was. Okay? So our faith and our religion is not based on what narration, who, and this and that. Our faith is totally, even there was no Bible written because of what Jesus did, and if you believe that, you'll be saved. That's our belief. So this whole thing about narration and who wrote this and what does it say this is because of your perspective, because your Quran has nobody who wrote down the Quran. You don't have Ali Abu Bakr's Quran, which was the first compilation. Why you don't have it? You don't have, not just you, I've asked a lot of Muslims here, nobody knows why you don't have it. Why do you not have the full Uthmanic Quran? Nobody knows where the copies of those Qurans were sent to the capitals of Islamic world, which was ruling those areas. There was no Jew or Christian who took it from them. They had it. Now they don't have it. And those were not written on paper like Bible was in the beginning. It was written on parchment, which lasts for centuries. So those things would not have been disappeared unless your people did it. So you don't have your Quran. You don't know who wrote it. Okay, you have people, you say, well, there were Sahaba. What was the name of who wrote the Baqarah ayat? How do we know he wrote all the ayats in there? There are so many discrepancies in your own narratives, in your own Islamic narrative. There are, I used to say this, now I forgot about this one. Okay. There are so many examples of that.
Let me know when you're done.
I will be done and then you will know, and that, like I let you speak. Now, in the Bible, like you say, oh yeah, how do we know? I said, listen, Christianity was your hadiths. Hadiths are the sayings of the Prophet. Those are written 200. We're not counting the time. He said, don't count the time. Hadiths were written 200 years after Muhammad. These are hadiths. The red letters in here are the Christian hadiths, which means what Jesus said. The sayings of Jesus are the hadiths of Jesus. These are in here.
Remember this point. This is a really good point.
These were written within 90 years of Jesus by the people who
wrap it up now. Wrap it up now. I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let you waffle.
So I'm just addressing the same point. I let you speak for a long time.
No.
And now I have like hardly 2 minutes.
You just done 2 minutes.
No. Listen, how many minutes did you have?
Was it more than 2 minutes?
Of course you had.
No, come
you
on,
had more than 2 minutes.
Long time.
If it was, okay, just wrap it up.
And you kept interrupting him.
Wrap it up.
Well, he's interrupting
And the
me.
topic was, did John write John?
The topic is what is the reliability of your book, and I'm saying the reliability of this book. The reliability of this book. Okay, the reliability of this book is established from the beginning of Christianity, from the people who were there.
Okay.
So if you come across and say, well, we don't know this and that, this is like something
That's it. That's fine.
Okay,
I'm not going to let you.
But your Quran, now you're running away from your Quran and your Hadith. They were
Let me finish.
very
I've
long.
given you 2 minutes. You didn't wrap it up
Okay, so
then.
you're gonna get 2 minutes? Are we doing 2 minutes?
Just
now?
wrap it up. Just wrap it up, please. Is there anything else you want to add?
Okay. The wrap. Okay, I'm gonna have my last say. We'll give you 30 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
Bible was written by the people who were there, by the eyewitnesses. It has been attested by the eyewitnesses. You don't need a chain of narration when you have eyewitnesses.
All right, you're
Islam
done. Okay.
was not written by eyewitnesses,
so
you need a chain of narration.
Now you're taking liberties.
That's it.
Okay.
I have to say
that's
my
fine.
say.
That's fine. Don't take liberties. So you're
Liberties?
saying
What do you mean
don't take liberties.
I have liberty.
Listen,
You don't have liberty.
That's fine.
In Islam, you don't have liberty. I have liberty.
Okay. Now you're attacking. Okay, that's fine.
No, I am
now
because you're attacking me.
Now you're attacking me.
You're saying you're taking liberties.
I
What
said don't
liberties
take
are
liberties with the time. Meaning don't take liberties with the time.
Okay, with the time. Okay,
Yes.
fine. Are we doing 2 minutes then?
Listen, just let me speak, please. Yeah.
So you don't want to take 2 minutes?
Just let me speak. Okay. So notice now that you did not address anything at all to do with Irenaeus. Now we discussed these guys before. We had this discussion. You made the claim that John wrote John. I was speaking to someone else, and you butted in and said yes, John wrote John. Now you made the claim, not me. I didn't claim that. When I asked you to demonstrate it, you said yes, we can. The church fathers. I asked which church fathers. You didn't know the name. I said, well, Irenaeus, 180. You said yes, that's the one. So it was you that made the claim. So why are you saying now this claim is not important? Okay, you opened the Bible and you said that these are our narrations. These red letters. You opened a red letter Bible and you said these are the narrations found in the gospel. These are our hadith. The manuscripts that you have, I told you already, our religion is not based. Our sources are not based upon manuscripts. Okay, we have chain of transmission and isnad and consensus at every time. When you mention these, and this is the irony. Here's my brother here. This is the irony. They have a problem with Bukhari. Most of their manuscripts that they use to revive their text come after Bukhari. Not after Jesus, after Bukhari. We often
Are we
hear
timing
from
this
no,
anymore?
we often hear from Christians now that the most widely attested to manuscript document in history from manuscript tradition is the Bible. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of manuscripts. Okay, he's burning now. Now, what we say is that most of these manuscripts, 95% or 93%, I've done the maths itself, they come after Bukhari, but yet they attack Bukhari like they did earlier, and he did as well. They have a problem with Bukhari, who died a few centuries after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but yet their manuscripts come after the Bukhari. So we go back to the original question: how do you transmit anything from Jesus? All the great I am statements where you claim that Jesus is God, before Abraham was I am the Father are one, I am the way, the truth, the life, all found in John. I showed him at the end of John, if you don't mind. The end of John, it mentions, the end of John, again, just for the record, he never addressed it. This is the disciple which testifies of these things and wrote these things. And we know that his testimony is true. My question to him earlier, which he clearly said he don't know, and I want him to say he doesn't know on camera. Who is the we and who is the his? We know that his testimony is true. This we here, they're speaking first person plural, they're giving us the transmission. Now, if this is the gospel with the highest Christology, the highest view of Jesus, yeah, how can they now not know who that we is? When we're getting that view of Jesus that shows that he's God, we're getting this through these unknown people. So he didn't address anything to do with how do we know that what Irenaeus says is true, that John wrote John. He never addressed anything like that at all. I'll give him another opportunity to address it, and I'll also ask him who is the we. Just for the record, he mentioned earlier that he doesn't know who the we is. I just want to see if he's consistent and he's good enough to say that on camera he doesn't know who wrote this part here of we, as in the one who's transmitting to us. The second thing, because he mentioned the Quran, we have to deal with it. The only thing he can do, rather than address the answer, he has to say, well, what about the Quran? Okay, we have chains of transmission with biographies of scholars and transmitters from the companions. In fact, I've set in front of scholars, Sheikh Rabi, for example, 27 people in the chain. He shows his, I want to wrap up now, he shows his transmission, and it's not the Sheikh Rabi, many scholars, they have chains of transmission where they can show the name of the people in the isnad, but we don't even need that, that's for narrations. We have ijma, consensus. In the time of Uthman, why didn't they rebel against Uthman? Those who Uthman was killed, why did they not kill him for changing the Quran? They killed him for something else. Why? The easiest thing they could said, he corrupted the Quran. Nobody had that connection. And I'll wrap up there.
Are you done?
I've done, what was that, 30 seconds over? A minute? No problem.
Okay, thank you. So
No problem.
it's all right. Okay, I did address. Now let's address the we. He said, who was the we in the...
Naam. Manuscript. Barakallahu fiqh. Yeah. Naam. Naam. Jazakallahu khair. Yeah.
Are you listening?
I'm listening now.
Okay, thank you. All right, you asked me who the we are.
Who's the we? And how do we know Irenaeus? These are my two main questions. Who's the we? And how do we know that Irenaeus, when he said John wrote John, how do we know he's correct? Where's his work in? Please.
Okay, so the we are the Christians. We are the Christians. About him is Jesus, that his testimony is true.
Wow.
Okay, that's what the answer is. Now, Irenaeus, I just told you that in Christianity, our faith is not, because our Bible is transmitted by eyewitnesses and the people who interviewed the Bible in the first generation, right? We don't need a long chain of narration because we're not writing those things 200-300 years after the fact. Okay, so we don't need what you have. Your Quran and your Hadith are dependent on narration because you don't have any eyewitnesses to any of those statements. So there are a lot of problems with those narrations that you're talking about. It's not, a lot of people don't even believe in all the Sahih Hadith. I come here weekly, I talk to Muslims, when I show them Hadith, they say, oh, I don't believe in that Hadith. It's a Sahih Hadith, it's Sahih Muslim, it's Bukhari. No, I don't have to believe it. Oh, it's not the word of Allah, I only believe in Quran. How many times they dance around their Hadith? It's unbelievable, it's already on camera. If you guys are like picking up you don't have anything to, once you look at your book, The questions that Muslims ask are because of the problems they have with their text. They think that those same problems can be applied to the Bible. It cannot. Because the Bible does not work like this, the Quran does. Because it wasn't written 300 years after the fact. It was written by the people or the people who were interviewing the eyewitnesses. That's my answer. What's your other question? If I'm forgetting something, I want to cover it.
So the two ones are, it should have been three, but two ones I asked you, who's the we?
I asked you that.
Okay, we're going to check that. And Irenaeus, when he says John wrote John, where did he get that from?
Okay, he's the church father. This is from the people that were there. So, so you're saying John had disciples. Polycarp, you said, is one of the disciples. There are others that are there. So they are the ones who are there to know if John is not correct or if this is something not written by him, they can correct that.
Allahu Akbar.
Okay?
Yeah.
So because they're
Allahu Akbar. The same thing that he's gone. Sorry, I'm not going to cut.
Now,
Remember that point. Remember that point.
That point does not convert into like the same argument as the Muslims because you don't have the eyewitnesses that did that. You have narrations. Oh, someone that called this and his father that and that father uncle said this, that Muhammad said this. Okay, we don't have that. And then some of them said, no, that's a weak hadith. No, that's not a reliable. And even if it's Sahih hadith, if it doesn't work with the Quran, then we don't accept it. Even if it has a chain. I asked this question 10 times. If it has a chain of narration, is that a Sahih hadith? Well, maybe not. Because if it has a right chain of narration, but it doesn't work with the Quran's theology, then we don't consider it. That's how your religion works, and you think that that's how the Christianity doesn't work like that. We don't have these issues. You guys have these issues. That's my answer.
Okay. So notice again, he said something which is 4 things I want to 4 points. If you don't mind, can I borrow your Bible again? Yeah. He said on camera, and I'm shocked at this one. I'm very shocked at this. He said on camera that this is the disciple which testifies these things and wrote these things, and we know that his testimony is true. He said the him here is Jesus.
Yes.
He actually on camera he said
yes.
Yeah, he
because
said
your understanding is different than
okay,
ours.
so who's the listen, this is the disciple. Is that Jesus? If he's saying that's Jesus,
that's a disciple.
this is the first ever.
That is John speaking to other Christians and telling them the testimony of Jesus is correct. That's all it's saying.
So now, this disciple here, who is it? Who is the disciple?
John.
Okay. Which testifies of these things and wrote these things. You said that was Jesus.
The testimony of Jesus.
No, he said that testify that his testimony, Jesus' testimony is true.
No.
Who believe in the
This is the disciple.
Okay, my friend.
No.
Misunderstanding your interpretation of it. This
Don't
is
run.
not what
I'm speaking now.
I'm
speaking now.
I've already
it's
answered
fine.
that.
It's on camera.
Okay,
You haven't answered nothing
him anymore because he's keep giving his interpretation of that and saying
this
is what it means.
There you go.
So you can take that as his interpretation.
If there's any Muslim cameras, I'll carry on.
I'm not responding
No.
anymore.
You must do. You must do. You know you're wrong.
I'm not.
No Christian exegesis, as far as I'm aware, would ever say that the disciple who wrote these things and testified these things is Jesus. I'm speaking. No? Yeah. No, he just said it. He said it. He said it.
He's been saying it that John is the disciple.
Okay, fine. The thing that I mentioned earlier before the camera, how do we know that John is the beloved disciple? He said someone else said it, so we believe it. The second thing is who's the we?
Yeah, the we.
He said earlier off camera, we don't know who the we is.
Yeah, no.
I'm speaking. So do you agree now? And he said earlier that the we is unknown. We don't know who the we is.
No, I said there are the Christians.
Yes.
That he's addressing.
The Christians.
Yes.
Is that your answer?
Yeah, of
The Christians.
Yes,
Okay.
there were
Which
thousands of
Christians?
We don't know.
The Christians that he's addressing in the book.
Did Christians lie in the name of Jesus? Did some Christians lie in the name of Jesus?
No, we're not going to the next
Wow.
topic. Are you changing
Why?
the topic?
Because goes back to the same topic about forgery. How do we understand forgery? For him, being Christian is enough. If a Christian says to you, jump off a cliff, you're going to land on a bouncy castle, that's enough. If a Christian says to you...
Are you not changing the topic?
Not at all.
You sound like you are.
Not at all.
He's going all over the place. When I did that, you just said,
The
no,
reference
don't
show-
go all over the place.
No,
you do.
because the we here, you don't know who it is.
I told you who it is.
Who?
I said that we are the Christians that he's addressing,
And now you-
he's saying his testimony
Now
is Jesus'
this,
testimony.
when these people, when they attack Islam, they cannot attack Islam except by falling into the same criticism that they criticize the Muslims with. But yet, let me finish. Now,
You didn't address
let me
my
finish.
attack
Let
on
me
Islam
finish.
because you can't address
Let me
it.
finish.
You cannot address the attack that I did on Islam right now. I said to you,
He's
you
cutting
have a
my
problem
time.
because
I was patient for
you don't have eyewitnesses.
I was patient for
you
him.
Didn't. You didn't
I was
come
patient
back
for him.
with that. No,
I
I'm just
was patient for
pointing
him.
it out.
I was
Your
patient for him.
diplomacy here, what you're playing.
he said, let's tone it down. He said that Muslims do. My uncle, this uncle. He just said Christians. This is the highest Christology, this gospel. But he said, well, Christians said it, so we accept it. But then when he said to the Muslims, oh, they take from their uncles. No, we don't take from our uncles and so and so. We take from the names of the people. He mentioned eyewitnesses.
I'm so glad we're on camera.
One of the conditions of an authentic hadith is that has ittisal, is connected chain. A hadith that has inqita is disconnected, like the mursal, for example, is a category of weak narration. Where the sahabi, where the eyewitness is missing, that's a category of weak narration.
So why don't you address the point that why
I'm
Muslims
speaking.
say that
I'm
if it
speaking and I
doesn't
never
jive
cut
with
you.
the Quran-
I'm speaking and I never cut you. So then he says we have eyewitnesses. Okay, for us, an authentic narration has to come via sahabi, eyewitness. Okay, same with the Quran. The Quran recension that we have comes via Abu Bakr, comes from Ali, from Uthman, from many of the Sahaba. It's a joke. Yeah. The second thing now is that he said we have eyewitnesses, and I'm so glad he said it. Was Luke an eyewitness?
No,
No.
not all of them.
Was Mark an eyewitness?
No, I said we.
Was Mark an
Are you going to
eyewitness?
misquote me? I'm going to interrupt.
I never
if
said-
you
I
misquote
never made
me.
the claim.
No, you
I never made the
misquoted
claim.
me.
You made the
I did
claim.
not say that. I said we have eyewitnesses and we have people who interviewed eyewitnesses.
Okay, like
Luke said I interviewed the eyewitnesses
sounds
to
like-
give you the right account.
So if
he
Luke,
said that.
So now let's look at
said
this
that.
example. He cut me. Now let's look at this example. He
No,
mentioned
if you're
Luke.
going to start
He mentioned
misquoting
Luke.
me all over the place, I'm going to have to come in and correct you.
Why did I not cut you, even
No,
though
no,
you
no,
like?
I didn't misquote you.
I never
That's
cut
why.
you.
I don't do
I
that.
never cut you.
I'm not a Muslim.
I asked the
Muslims
question-
misquote Christians.
Ad hominem.
Christians don't misquote
This
Muslims.
guy's running away.
I don't have to
He's
misquote
running away.
you.
I don't
Muslims.
have to do ad hominem attacks to get away from the point. Now, what he said that we have eyewitnesses. Okay, I asked who these eyewitnesses. He said Christians. Number
I
one,
didn't. That's
Christians.
another lie. I said in here he's addressing Christians. I didn't say those Christians who had no input in that text or in that verse. They're just passive audience that he's addressing.
You're cutting me again.
And he's saying, "Oh, you're saying they're
And you're
eyewitness."
cutting me
I'm
again.
not saying they're
And he's
eyewitness.
cutting me again.
I'm saying they're passive audience
So
that
for
he's
example,
addressing. Hello,
he-
sir. Please stop misquoting.
I never
Without
cut you.
lies, Islam
I
dies.
never-
It's proven on
I
camera.
I never cut you.
Because of you.
I never cut you.
You're proving Islam
I never
is
cut you.
false. That's all.
That's-
Go ahead.
that's
Please
an
go
ad hominem
ahead. You're doing
again.
a good job.
I never cut you.
You're doing a great job.
I never cut you.